Oh, good morning. Welcome to our special edition of Jenny Mitich Live. This is Morning Coffee with Jenny. I've got my Nespresso decaf because that's how I roll. So many fun things have already happened today, and it's only what, 10 a.m.? Man, I've been up since 6. We had the boys stay the night at the in-laws' house last night, so I was able to get a bunch of work done, got the house clean. Brainstormed some videos. I went and did my arm exercise. And yes, I wore my amazing spooky season sweatshirt to the gym because I have zero shame. None whatsoever. So first, I wanted to go over a few little housekeeping things, fill you in on what's going on, and then I wanted to get to a bunch of your questions. So let me know first and foremost if you can hear me. That is important. Everything is showing that it's working on my end, but I would like to make sure. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions about carnivore, keto, things like that, any things you want to tweak or any difficulties you're having, leave them in the comment section, and I will get to them after we do our little check-in that we always do in the beginning. Also, I'd really like to hear your success stories. I love hearing how everything is going for you. So if you're having difficulties, awesome. Well, not awesome, but we'll work on them together. Let me know what they are. If you're having a win or having a good time with carnivore, let me know that too. Okay, wonderful. Looks like our audio is working, so that's a plus. Let's move into this. If you haven't gotten yourself a cup of morning joe or tea or whatever you drink in the morning, get it. Let's hang out. All right. First of all, yesterday I had the second of, I think, 4 treatments in a row that I'm going to be having for my face. As you can see, my face is looking fantastic. It's a liquid microneedling. I actually filmed the entire process yesterday, and that's going to be released on my second channel. Probably, I don't know, in a few weeks, something like that. Basically, it's a treatment that comes from South Korea. South Koreans are like super, super, super into skincare, and they have some of the best technology and treatments and all the stuff. So my esthetician, Gina, she met with basically the CEO of the company that has brought this liquid microneedling technology to the United States. And this is my second treatment. So what it feels like is little tiny shards of glass under my flesh. It feels better today. And I think the second time around, it wasn't as bad as the first time. Basically, it's little tiny, I think they're called spicules. They're little tiny sponges, sea sponges, that have these little razor blade looking things if you look at them under a microscope. And what it does is it kind of does like micro damage to your skin. But in the long term, after a couple of months, it helps to promote collagen production. And let me tell you, your skin looks amazing afterwards, but you have to do them in a series of, I think, 3 or 4. This is especially good if you have like acne scars or things like that, because it can help plump up the skin. I don't have any scars, thankfully, from the time that I had pretty bad acne when I was a kid. But yeah, you know, I'm obsessed with skincare treatments. So I got that done yesterday. That was super fun. Second channel, you'll be able to see that whole process. So I think I've got a link to my second channel, Jenny Mitich, etc., in the description of this live. Like I said, the boys stayed the night over at the in-laws. We're going to be picking them up later today because at noon, my husband and I are going to go see Beetlejuice, the new Beetlejuice 2. I don't know if it's called Beetlejuice 2, but yeah, that's going to be super fun. I'm really happy that Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder and Catherine O'Hara are back. I love them, and I love that movie. And it's just kind of a Halloween, spooky season appropriate movie. So we're going to go see that in IMAX. And then, yeah, I think pick up the boys and have some family time. And then tomorrow, my dad and stepmom are coming over to hang out with us. We're also going to be cooking a lot of recipes this weekend. So I have been kind of cooking up a storm lately, coming up with some new recipes and different things for the channel. Yesterday, I cooked some carnivore cheesecake. I did a couple versions of this with cottage cheese earlier in the week, and I don't know, I just don't dig cottage cheese cheesecake. I like sour cream and cream cheese and egg. I just feel like the consistency is more like cheesecakey to me. I don't know. So I came up with a pretty good recipe last night. I'll be sharing those with you, but I made like 6 mini cheesecakes. Those were delicious. They turned out really, really good after you cool them. Like you can't eat them right out of the oven. You know, they have to cool. So that was good. I also just put the finishing touches on a spicy chicken sandwich that you are going to love. Fully carnivore, 100%. And man, I think I've got like 9 more recipes I'm going to be experimenting with this week. So holy smokes, lots of things coming up for you on the main channel. Monday, we are going to the farm. So every year, my mother-in-law makes something called Ivar. So they are Serbian. Ivar is basically like a roasted red pepper dish. And I learned how to make it a couple of years ago. I have a video, I think 2 years old on my channel where I share that recipe, but we are going to be going to the farm and picking the red peppers on Monday and bringing the boys with. So that's gonna be super fun. I'll be filming that whole process for the second channel. And yeah, okay, that's not carnivore, but it would be considered keto. And you have to make them now while the peppers obviously are red and ripe. And then I still have some jars from last year that are still good in the fridge because they're preserved. So yeah, that's going to be super fun. Ooh, and then next weekend, I'm going to start putting up my Halloween decor. I'm kind of a psycho about all of that stuff. So that'll be up on the second channel too. Yeah, this year's theme is going to be super, super fun. I'm pretty excited about it. So you won't want to miss that. All that stuff's going to be on the second channel. The recipe stuff will be on the main channel. So yeah, that's what's been going on in my life. Let's move into more carnivore related stuff. That was all just kind of like behind the scenes stuff. September Carnivore Challenge is going on. It is the 7th. So we are a week in. Over at the Jenny Mitich Carnivore Community on Circle, I've got links to both the free and premium memberships in the description below. So you can get some support, some accountability, some community doing carnivore with other like-minded people. So this month's challenge in the group is to come up with something that you have been wanting to improve on, or you want to continue staying consistent with, or something that you've had difficulties with in the past few months, and make a goal around it. So I have 2 goals for the month of September. I am going to continue with my at least 3 times a week of walking and strength training. I did accomplish that this week, so that's good. And then my other goal is to incorporate some fasting. I haven't done a ton of fasting since like March-ish. And I wanted to get back into it. So I did 2 24-hour fasts this week. And I think I'm going to try for a 36-hour fast on Sunday. I'll probably eat dinner on Sunday and then not eat again until Tuesday morning. That's going to, depending on how I feel on Sunday, but I think I'm going to be okay. And then, I think next week, I don't know. I say I'm going to do the 36-hour fast, but I was thinking this morning that maybe it would be fun to do a sardine fast next week. So I was going to head over to World Market and pick up a bunch of sardines because they have my Baltic Gold Briesling sardines that I really like. They're like smoked, but they also have a ton of other sardines. So I thought maybe that would be fun to do maybe a 3 or 4 day fast. So if I do the sardine fast, I probably won't do the 36-hour, but whatever. I'm going to figure it out. I'm doing some fasting this month. And so far for the first week of September, I did 2 24-hour fasts. So pretty excited about that. If you would like to join in, everybody in our group has their own goals and we're just sharing, as we want, weekly or whatever, daily, just however you want to share and get some support. So you can head over to the links in the description of this live and join us over there. Let's see here. What else? I opened up my schedule through the end of next week for one-on-one coaching sessions. So if you're needing some more like detailed, in-depth help, we can schedule a 30-minute call and we can sit down and go over whatever you need to talk about. Those sessions are up through the 13th, but I think next week I'm going to open them up through the end of the month. I just kind of have to figure out what's going on with my schedule. And then as far as videos that are coming up on the main channel, tomorrow morning, we have the Symposium for Metabolic Health that I just went to in San Diego. Some of you came on live streams with me while I was out there. I have a recap video talking about all of the speakers, the vendors, and some information behind the scenes for from the symposium. Sorry, I got off track here. It's going to be a really fun video, short, sweet, and awesome. And then on the 12th, I have a video coming up with a really good interview with Dave Feldman. You guys know I love Dave. He is a computer engineer turned cholesterol researcher. Ever since he went on a ketogenic diet in 2017 and saw his LDL cholesterol numbers skyrocket, but he also saw his triglycerides drop drastically and his HDL cholesterol go up. And he was just wondering, what is this phenomenon? He named it the lean mass hyperresponder phenotype, and that triad is the lean mass hyperresponder triad. And ever since then, he has been diving into research to figure out why this happens. We have a really great interview. He, at the symposium, talked a little bit about some of the emerging data that is coming from the very first lean mass hyperresponder study. So we talked about that, and that interview will be up on the 12th. And then a bunch of other stuff that I'm working on for the rest of the month. Make sure you get your questions into the chat because I'm going to be moving over there in a minute. If you have any questions whatsoever, let me know that, like around carnivore, keto, whatevs. Or if you have a big win, you're doing really good, share your story with us because I love hearing all of that as well. It's very important to share your successes as much as you share your difficulties because, you know, we gotta stay motivated, and it's really good to hear when other people are doing good too. Today's sponsor is ButcherBox. ButcherBox is a home meat delivery company. They have really, really high quality meat, ethically sourced meat, sustainably sourced meat, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, pork that's raised crate-free, organic chicken, wild-caught seafood. And I think right now from September 5th until the 8th, they are running their football special. So I think from now until the end of the year, something like that, you are going to get a free packet of wings and I think a free packet of ground beef, if I remember correctly, in any box that you order. So you can head to the link in the description and check out those deals. You can do a curated box where like they pick out stuff for you. You just kind of tell them what you want generally, or you can do a customized box where you pick everything yourself. So they're really, really great. I have been getting a shipment probably, I don't know, once a month right now, and it's very high quality meat. So I appreciate that, especially, you know, being a carnivore, that's all I'm eating. So it's nice to have good, ethically sourced, sustainably sourced meat. So check out that link. Also, Gardener's baked cheese is having a sale on, well, they have right now available their everything seasoned squeaky cheese curds that are like marked down, I think $3 a package. And those cheese curds are amazing. So I put that link in the description too, so you can check them out because, you know, I don't do a ton of dairy, but once or twice a month, I'm eating some of these Gardeners, like either the baked cheese or the squeaky cheese curds. We fry them up in a pan. So, so good. That is all I have to talk about as far as that goes. Boom, done with our check-ins. Let's head over and check out the feed and say hello to everybody. Kathleen, hello. Jesse, hello from Tennessee. K-Day, Jenny, you've lost a lot of weight. You are gorgeous. Oh, well, thank you so much. I've lost like 45 to 46 pounds, depending on the day, trying to get to that 50 mark. Kathleen is watching from California. Dale, hello, hello. K-Day, what are your favorite foods and best meals of carnivore for weight loss? I'm struggling. Okay, I am basic. I'm so basic. I do most of the time beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. And under bacon, I would say pork. Do a lot of pork in this household. I'm eating typically 2 meals per day. Although this month, since I'm going to be doing more 24-hour fasts, I have been doing a few days of OMAD. Let's see, what do we eat? I mean, a lot of steak, ground beef, ground pork, a lot of eggs, bacon, breakfast sausage, probably chicken. This past week, I ate a lot of chicken thighs because I made some carnivore spicy chicken sandwiches. So ate a lot of chicken thighs this week. That is not typical though. Typically do wings at least once a month. I only buy wings at the store when they're on sale for 50% off, like meat that needs to be sold by that day. So I'll get like $10 worth for 5, and then I freeze it. And whenever I feel the urge to have some wings, I do that. I have been doing a serving of sardines every day to try to up my omega-3s. And if I'm bored, that's when I'll move into recipes. So if you're struggling are you struggling with weight loss or boredom? With weight loss, I would say make sure to cut the dairy first. Track your food if you're not already to kind of see how much you're eating. And then you might not be eating enough, or you might be eating way too much. There's just so many things that go into weight loss. Up your hydration for sure. Make sure you're keeping up with your electrolytes if you're early on carnivore. But sometimes you just need to kind of mix it up a little bit. So on YouTube, there are a ton of really great recipes, carnivore recipes. So if you are just super, super bored, I would say, I've got some on my channel, like the taco balls, the white pizza was really good. The crab cups that I made, I think that was in my air fryer recipe part 2. That was really good. My ground beef recipe video has a ton of awesome recipes in it, meatballs, burgers, but the beef stroganoff is my favorite from that one. It seems so, so, so good. All right. Jill says, I'm a wobbly carny. At dinner, I am allowing about 30 grams of carbs, plus I have a glass of full fat milk at bedtime. I would pretty much consider that keto, which is totally fine. That's great. Love it. If it's working for you, that's great. Samantha, if I only need to lose about 10 pounds, should I eat leaner meats? No. You need the fat for energy. When you're only eating meat and animal products, so you're basically, if you're not including much dairy, you're basically only eating protein and fat. And if you eat leaner meats, it's not sustainable. You will start feeling not good quickly because you need the fat for energy. So think of the fat as like gasoline for your vehicle. Your vehicle is your body. And the protein is providing the building blocks to keep your vehicle strong, fit, and running. So protein is broken down into all the amino acids you need to survive and to build muscle and to your organs and your skin and all that kind of stuff, your fingernails, your hair. And the fat is you're getting for energy is also used in the production of fat-soluble vitamins and hormones and things like that. So you don't want to do leaner meats, even if you're trying to lose weight. Eating fat doesn't mean that you're going to gain fat on your body. They're two entirely different things. The fat on your body is mostly from the carbohydrates that you eat. I mean, yeah, you can store fat and you can store protein as well, but most of that's from carbohydrates. So if you want to lose 10 pounds, I would just say, for now, I don't know. I need more information than that. Like, are you early on carnivore? How long have you been doing it? All that kind of stuff. I am, let's see, Jesse, what color lipstick do you use in your videos? It's gorgeous. So right now I'm wearing Glossier in Villa, but in my videos, I do a mix of 2 different Glossier lip glosses, lip glosses. They're, let's see, Vesper and Villa. And then I have another color I use from Buxom. It's called Dolly, I think. Dolly Fever, something like that. I'll mix those together. That's kind of where I get my lip color from. Mrs. Hooligan Fish, good morning from California. Good morning. Hello. I'm 35 years old, 62 days on carnivore. I'm down from 199 to 166. Wow, that's amazing. I have had massive benefits from this. 90% of my extreme health issues have been resolved. That's awesome. And what an incredible weight loss. I mean, that's 30 pounds. That's amazing. Just in 62 days. I love it. I can't see what carnivore is going to do for you in the longer term. If you've had that much success in just 2 months on carnivore, that's amazing. Dale, I hate breaded meat. You can't taste the flesh. Yeah, I mean, if you're not really going to be eating much breaded meat on carnivore unless you're breading it with pork rinds or pork panko or something like that. Karma has a win for us, 111 days on carnivore. After 29 years of being on high blood pressure meds, my family doctor says to discard the meds because I'm cured. That's amazing. And that is not an abnormal thing that happens on a carnivore diet. A lot of people, when they go carnivore, see their blood pressure and their blood glucose levels regulate very quickly. And by regulate, I mean like go back to normal. So that is one thing. I do not recommend just going off of blood pressure medications all willy-nilly. I'm glad that you talked to your doctor and did all that. But that is something that you will most likely need to manage. If you are on blood pressure meds, you might find that after a few weeks to a few months on carnivore, your blood pressure, if you take the meds, could be too low. So you need to pay attention to that. Make sure you have a blood pressure cuff and you're letting your doctor know that you're, experimenting with a lower carb diet, and they might need to adjust those for you. The other thing is insulin levels. If you are taking insulin, let's say you do type 2 diabetes, which is most diabetics out there, you may notice that you don't need to inject as much insulin because you are not dealing with all of the, glucose spikes because you're not consuming carbs. So make sure you pay attention to that and always talk to your doctor to make adjustments and to maybe eventually get off meds, just like Karma was able to. That's amazing. All right. The judge is also from California, started at 330 pounds. Just right now, fluctuating between 300 and 303, struggling to break into the 290s, but I will get there. You will get there. You will. I've had several periods throughout the 22 months that I've been on carnivore where I have struggled with, I don't want to call them stalls. Some of them have been stalls, like this one that I've been on now for about 5 or 6 months. But previous ones where I was kind of the same weight for a month or two, and you do break through. You just kind of have to figure out which lever you need to adjust. Like maybe you need to up the fat a little bit. Maybe you need to do a little bit more exercise. Maybe you need to do a little bit of reverse dieting for a month where you eat higher calorie, higher fat, and then kind of give your body a break and kind of trick it into like, oh, we have enough nutrients now, and then you can start to ramp the calories back down again. There's so many different things you can do. But yeah, good job. I mean, honestly, if you started at 330 and you're down to 300 already, that's amazing. 30 pounds, it makes a huge difference. And I can't wait to see what carnivore is going to do for you in the long term. Jill says, how do you preserve red peppers? Funny you should ask. If you head over to, this is an older video. What I'm going to do is I will link the video where I show you exactly how we make Ivar in the description of this live as soon as we are done. Let me put the Ivar video. And I will also share with you a little bit about the process when we go on Monday. I'm going to be filming that and putting that over on my second channel. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, I'll link that video so you don't have to go digging through the archives of my videos to find it. Samantha, I used to do a lot of extended fasts to lose weight, but I also lost muscle, so I don't do that anymore. Yeah, I am not a big proponent of just using fasts for losing weight for that exact reason. You can. There are a few ways, though, that you can preserve your muscle while fasting. One of those is protein sparing modified fast. That is like the whole reason why that fasting method was created, was to spare your muscles while you're fasting. So basically you just eat enough protein to where your muscle mass won't decline. And I think it's very low calorie, like 800 calories or something, very low fat. So you burn your own fat. and then enough protein to save your muscles. But you don't want to do that all the time. I mean, protein sparing modified fasts are probably a couple times a week tops that you would want to use something like that. And for longer term fasting, I'm basically doing it. I think I have a little bit of insulin resistance left. And I do have, I kind of want to tap into the fat stores that are on my body. So that's kind of why I'm trying it. I don't have the book right here. Jason Fung, Dr. Fung, has an excellent book. It's called The Complete Guide to Fasting that he goes into. And for people that have a lot of extra weight on their bodies or are noticing that their glucose levels are still relatively high, even though they're on carnivore or very low carb, keto, whatever, fasting is a really excellent way to get your insulin levels under control. It's a great way to lose visceral fat and subcutaneous fat. But yeah, I think it needs to be used with discretion for sure. Yeah, it can be a hard balance. Melanie Waters, good morning from Ocala, Florida. Did I pronounce that right? Probably not. Having trouble losing weight. Yeah, it can be difficult sometimes. Give me a little bit more details, Melanie. Have you been on carnivore? If so, how long have you been on carnivore? Are you including dairy in your version of carnivore? Because that can slow down weight loss for sure. Let's get a little bit more details in there, see if we can't figure that out for you. Jill, curious, in medical records, is there a CPT code for remission, resolved, healed, no longer present disease? Since we are healing and restoring health, this would be useful for tracking disease resolution. I completely agree with you. If anybody in the group knows the answer to that question, please put it in the chat, because I do not know the answer to that question, and I would be curious to know. Curtis, here is the September challenge for Curtis. September challenge is continue with what I'm doing as I posted in the group posts. Looking forward to moving into the 230s. He is currently at 241 and confident that that will happen. 19 pounds down in the 10th week. That's incredible, Curtis. Yes, we are making big strides over in our Jenny Mitich Carnivore Community. So it's very good to see you over here as well. Mrs. Hooligan Fish had a big win. On Tuesday, my doctor gave me back my driver's license after 9 years. I have resolved my neuropathy in my cervical spine. Holy smokes. I wish I had a clap track. That's amazing. 9 years of not having your license and now you have it back. Ugh, that's incredible. Here's a question. Do you remember how to drive? I feel like it's kind of like riding a bike. I'm sure it's going to be great, but that's a huge, huge, huge win. Excellent job. Super, super proud of you. Kathleen, lean mass hyperresponder here. Same. You know, it's funny. As I've continued losing weight on carnivore, I have seen my LDL cholesterol numbers go up, my triglycerides go down, and my HDL cholesterol the past few times has been way high in the 90s, almost to 100. My triglycerides are typically between like 43 and 60. And my cholesterol, LDL cholesterol, anywhere between like 175 to 263. It wavers a lot. Now I'm getting my blood done once a month just for fun, just for shits and giggles, and to share it with you guys. And I did a fun experiment before my last lipid test that I just got done. I'm putting that video together now. Because I want to talk a little bit more about the lean mass hyperresponder phenomenon and educate a little bit on it, because it's really, really interesting. Interesting stuff. Teresa, Jenny is rocking it. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Dale, Genghis Khan, Attila the Hun, and the Spartans, all carnivores, and Simon Belmont. I know who all of the historic ones are, but I have no idea who Simon Belmont is. I am a little behind on the times. Question. Mrs. Hooligan Fish is on day 62 of strict carnivore. Salt, beef, eggs, and butter. I'm still having issues with loose stools. I mostly have ground beef because of my kids. Any recommendations that may help? Thank you. Okay, so With loose stools, electrolytes, hydration, and trying not to do too many liquid, hot rendered fats, and doing more like cold fats or fats that are on the meat that you're cooking. So the thing with ground beef is a lot of the fat, it cooks out of the meat, right? And that liquid fat can cause some loose stools. You are still pretty early on, but that will start to resolve. But like steak fat is fine. If you had like cold butter, but like hot rendered butter, like melted butter, that's going to run right through you. Excuse me, MCT oil, that would run right through you. Things like that. Those can all be things that you can try for sure. You can also just in general try upping the protein a little bit and lowering the fat a little bit. You don't want to do too much though, because you want to have enough fat so that you're getting enough energy, but that you might want to play around with your macros a little bit and see if that's helpful. Bent Mama 1208. What items will you make for Thanksgiving? Glad you asked. I have a couple of holiday recipe videos on my channel. I will put links to both of those in the description of this live. So here's what we do. We spatchcock a turkey. So basically, you take a big turkey, you cut the spine out of it, and you lay it flat. And then we've done a couple of different versions. You can just do kind of like a butter kind of thing. My husband makes this delicious herb butter, and yeah, okay, technically herbs, whatever, aren't carnivore, but it's just in the butter. It's not a big deal. So we'll do something like that, and then we bake that. When you spatchcock the turkey, it cuts the baking time down drastically, and the turkey turns out so, so delicious. I go over exactly how to do that in that holiday recipe video. I've made a carnivore mac and cheese. We've got a really delicious carnivore gravy to go over the turkey and things like that. What else did we make? Gosh, we've got so many recipes now. But probably something like that. I did a pumpkin spice cheesecake. So just my basic cheesecake recipe and then just added in some pumpkin spice. That's a good one. We've done an egg pudding. Gosh, we've done so many. Check out those videos. I'll link them in the description. I'm also going to be coming up with some more videos for this year. But I don't feel like with holidays, it's pretty easy to come up with some really good like staple meat items, like turkey and ham, chicken, whatever. And then you can do there's a bunch of really good carnivore side dishes. So yeah. Adrian, good morning, Adrian. How are you doing today? I've been watching your Instagrams. You've been all over the place. You do so many fun activities. I feel so boring when I compare my life to yours. Graham, having a hard time kicking Coke Zero addiction. Don't have a drink other than water and electrolytes that you like to do throughout the day. My husband also has or had a pretty hard time kicking the Coke Zero. He really likes Sprite Zero too. It's a hard one. That's a hard one. The problem with all the zero drinks is they still have aspartame in them, it wreaks havoc on your gut microbiome. I really don't like that artificial sweetener. But at the end of the day, if that's the only bad thing you're doing and you're still losing weight and you're feeling better and all that kind of stuff, progress, not perfection. But if you really want to cut that, finding a replacement is important. What I drink decaf black coffee. The decaf is just because I cut caffeine years ago because of a previous anxiety and depression issue. It was mostly the anxiety, so I had to cut caffeine. I don't do caffeine ever for years and years and years, way before I started carnivore. So decaf black coffee. I do sparkling water. So I'll either do like a plain, like a San Pellegrino, or I'll do like the bubbly brand, blackberry, lime, that kind of thing. Some people do really well with tea, iced tea or things like that. There are other zero sugar drinks out there, but again, most of them are sweetened with aspartame. I think a lot of it, the kind of like addiction part comes from that sweet taste. And what it's doing is it's triggering your brain to think that you're still consuming sugar. So really it's breaking a sugar addiction, even though you're not consuming actual sugar. So the worst answer I can give you is just cut the cord, quit drinking it, and give yourself 30 days to try it. And I think that for my sugar cravings pretty much stopped after, I think, month 3 or 4. And now I'll have a Sprite Zero maybe once a month. If I go to the movies, I'll do a Sprite Zero strawberry, and then, that's pretty much it. But that's hard. It's hard. Water, sparkling water, and coffee is pretty much what I'm drinking. These are good. These Element sparkling waters, they're basically just Element electrolytes that are already mixed into a sparkling water. I drink a couple of these a day. These don't have, they have stevia and no caffeine, no sugar, and just the electrolytes. So these might be a good replacement for you. They're a little expensive, but they're good. You could also just mix electrolytes into water, sparkling water yourself, and do that. Kathleen, approaching 90 days on carnivore. Good work. I've only lost 6 pounds, but changed shape. Clothes are fitting much better. I fast most days 18 hours. Glucose is triple digits. Everyone is losing so much, and I'm here at 6 pounds. Okay, yeah. At least your body composition is changing. That's good. Glucose levels still being, 100 or higher most of the time. That is what I would want to address, because when your glucose levels are higher, that's indicating that you have some insulin resistance left, which it's common, happens, to a lot of people. But you want to kind of get those under control, because then when your insulin levels go down to between, single digits, optimally between 2 and 6, then your body won't be in fat storage mode anymore. Your glucose levels will go down, and everything then kind of starts to cascade. So for you, you're already doing 18-hour fasts. I would probably focus on maybe throwing in a couple of longer fasts. Now that you're on 90 days, you're already fasting 18 hours. You're it's not hard for you to do that. I would start experimenting with 24-hour fasts. And I would probably want to know what your fat to protein ratio is and see about maybe adjusting it so it's a little bit less protein and a little bit more fat. But I would need to see what you're actually eating first. So a little bit more fasting and maybe a little bit more fat and less protein, and see if we can get that glucose under control, because the glucose being high is related to insulin resistance. So your insulin is probably elevated. I don't know if you've ever had a fasting insulin test done. I think they're $14 on ownyourlabs.com, or you can get your doctor to order it, but it would be interesting to see where you're at there. She's also walking 2 miles per day. Renee, 1 week on carnivore. I already feel better. 51, never on meds. I am doing this to reverse type 2 diabetes. I was experiencing blurry vision and glucose numbers. Wow, in the 200s that wouldn't go down. Wow, yeah, that's high. I'm really glad that you have found this lifestyle. A lot of people have a lot of people have put their type 2 diabetes into remission, using an ultra low carb diet such as carnivore. So this is the best decision you could have made for yourself. In glucose in the 200s is just very dangerous. So just for your cardiovascular health and just for eye health, for sure. Your eyes are some of the first things that start to suffer when you have insulin resistance, because the little tiny vessels inside of your eyes are very sensitive. So I'm glad you're here. That is good. Denise, 18 months into carnivore, just had blood work. And of course, my cholesterol is high. The doc tested ApoB and it's 277. Been in tears for 2 days. Don't know what to do. Okay, I don't care about ApoB. I don't care about LDL cholesterol. I don't care about total cholesterol. Here's what I want to know. What were your triglycerides? What was your HDL cholesterol? What's your A1C? What's your fasting insulin? And what is your fasting glucose? Those are the numbers that I care about. And Kathleen just said the same thing. Trigs and HDL, those are the ones that matter. Let me know those. Okay, late to the chat. You're never late. You're here just on time. I've been on carnivore for 1.5 months. I've lost 2 pounds. I'm at a caloric deficit ranging 1,300, hitting my protein goals, fat goals, don't know what's up. You're not eating enough food, number one. 1,300 is how many calories like a 9 to 12-year-old should be eating. I recommend a bare minimum of 1,600 to 1,800. I'd also want to know how much you are working out. If you're very physically active, you need to be eating more food. I would need to dive into that a bit more. You could schedule a coaching call with me and we can like figure out exactly what's going on. Another thing, dairy. Are you including a lot of dairy? I would cut that if you are. Simon Belmont from the Castlevania games. Yeah, I wouldn't have gotten that reference. I played Castlevania on Nintendo way back in the day when I was a kid, but not like religiously. So nice. Tina says, hello from Arizona. Dale, I love the classic horror movies. Frankenstein, Dracula, The Wolfman. The remakes are better. I love classic horror movies as well. So I can't do like the psychological, really messed up horror films that exist nowadays. I find them to be fodder for my nightmares. And I don't get nightmares often, but when I'm really, really, really stressed out, I will get these terrible dreams. And I don't like to give my dreams ammunition. So I don't watch stuff like that anymore. I call it limiting my inputs. I try not to watch uber violent stuff or like really messed up psychological stuff because it just messes me up. But the classic stuff, I love it. K-Day. Okay. How much was your fasting? How much was your starting fasting glucose levels compared to your fasting now? I'm 100, but the doctor keeps saying I'm fine. Wow. Okay. So when I first started carnivore, I didn't have a ton of blood work and stuff because my blood work always came back good. I had a fasting glucose was at 100 when I got it done in May of 2022. That's before I started. I started wearing a continuous glucose monitor with NutriSense in September of 2022. So I had 3.5 months of glucose data from that. So I would say my average glucose levels were anywhere between like 95 and 105. And, you know, when I asked my doctor about that, they're like, yeah, 100 is fine. Typically, from what I've been learning, if you want to learn more about glucose levels, insulin resistance, and insulin in general, you have to watch Ben Bickman's channel. He is like the insulin guru. Do I have his book right here? He has a book called Why We Get Sick. I'm working my way through that book, and he's incredible. You don't want your fasting glucose levels, I mean, 80s, 70s, 80s is like perfect. Once you started getting up into the high 90s and low 100s, that means that there's a touch of insulin resistance there still. It's not the worst thing on the planet. Much better than having fasting insulin in the 130s or higher, of course, but still some progress to be made. So now, let's see. I am completely fasted right now. Let's go into my NutriSense app and see where I'm at. Because it kind of goes up and down. Right now, I'm at 83. I went to the gym earlier and did a workout. And during that period of time, I went up to like 88. That's been the highest I've been today, 88. And that could be plus or minus 5 to 8 points because, you know, continuous glucose monitors aren't going to be exact. But the newer ones, like the one I'm wearing is the Libre 3 and the Dexcom 7 are the most accurate continuous glucose monitors that are on the market. So that's kind of where I am now. But yeah, I think my average, let's see, where is my average glucose? Let's go into trends. Let's go into for the last 14 days, let's say. Okay. 99% in range. Let's just go here. My variability, 7, which is great. You want that to be under 14. That just means I haven't had much like ups and downs. I've been very, very stable. My maximum during the past 2 weeks has been 98. My sleep average is 75 and my morning average is 80. So that's awesome. And my average overall for the past 2 weeks has been 75. So my glucose is like where you want it to be right now. I'm also in month 22 of carnivore though. So if it's still 100 and you've been doing carnivore, I would say maybe start incorporating a little bit of some fasting, a little bit longer term fasting, like 24, and then kind of see what's going on. If you're doing finger sticks, I would recommend getting a CGM. They are available over the counter now. There's one called the Stelo, Stelo, that you can get. It's from Dexcom. And I believe it's $89 to $99 per sensor or something like that. Stick one of those on you for a couple of weeks to a month so you can get your true blood glucose levels, because the finger stick is just one data point at one point in time. You kind of want to see what the actual patterns are. And if they're a little higher, then I would say do a little bit of fasting or take a look at exercise. Helps to burn off some of the extra glucose, building muscle so that those extra glucose has places to go. That's a really good one. And then perhaps looking at your fat to protein ratios, and perhaps I would have to look at that, dropping the protein a little bit and upping the fat a little bit. That could be a thing. Ginger just got home from the hospital. Thankful. That's awesome. I hope the test went good. We can talk more about that in our messaging in the carnivore community, but I'm glad you're home. That is good. Gail, I went keto in 2019, lost 60 pounds off of insulin, cut blood pressure meds, got rid of other meds. In 2022, I had parathyroid surgery. They also removed my thyroid. Weight gain, high blood sugars currently help. Yes, that can happen with thyroid. Are you still currently on keto and or carnivore? That would be my first question. My second would be, because of the thyroid, are you taking thyroid meds at all because they removed your thyroid? What's going on there? There's some wacky stuff going on in your body. I'm not a doctor, so I can't give medical advice, but I would recommend trying to find a holistic thyroid practitioner that knows what the heck they're talking about when it comes to thyroid, because a lot of conventional docs, they're not trained in medical school to do more than like TSH or maybe a T4 test. So I would want to know what the heck's going on there, because something's out of whack for sure. K211.1, I'm new. How do I set up a coaching call with you? So in the description of all my videos, but also in all of my lives, there is a link to my coaching call scheduling website on Calendly. So you can go in and see what's available and pick a time, and you pay for the coaching session through that link as well. And then we get on a Zoom call together at the time that you've scheduled, and we can talk about whatever you need help with. That is how you do that. K-Day, same thing. It is in the description of this video so that you can do that. And if there's no times available that work for you, you can send me an email. My email is also listed in the description of every single one of my videos and in my lives. And you can say, hey, I'd like to schedule a coaching call with you, but this is the time that works best for me. And I can take a look at my schedule and see if I can fit it in. I always want to make sure that I am available for you to help. If you have any questions about carnivore, keto, or things like that, put them into the chat box now, because we're getting down to the end of the questions that have been asked. And I want to make sure I'm answering your questions while we still have some time, so get those in. Also, if you have a win, if you have a success story from carnivore or keto, let us know that as well, so that we can share that with the group, because it's always good to hear motivating stories. Dale says, the Silence of the Lambs was hard to watch. The classics are timeless. Did you ever play Zelda? I love Silence of the Lambs. That's one that I can watch. I do read about serial killers a lot. That was kind of a macabre fascination for me back in the day. So I do have a fascination with that. So I liked that movie a lot. But like the new nowadays ones, like, oh God, there was one called Hereditary. I watched that. I had nightmares for weeks. I couldn't watch it. It was too messed up for me. But let's see. Zelda. I did not play a lot of Zelda. I was more of a Mario gal. I did a lot of Mario on the Nintendo 64 system. My brother and I played GoldenEye until it went out of style. I love that game. I played some SimCity and The Sims on the Super Nintendo. God, we played so many different games, but not too many Zelda games. Nowadays, on the PS4, oh God, one of the best games that I've played in the past 5 years was Death Stranding. It's got the dude, Norman Reedus. He plays the main character in that game. Beautifully designed game. You're basically like delivering packages in a post-apocalyptic world, and there's all these weird, I don't want to call them demons. They're just like weird creatures. I love that game, and they're coming out with number 2. We played that game a lot, and then I play like Minecraft and Sims and stuff like that. Mrs. Hooligan Fish, I have been so inspired by carnivore. How do I become a coach so that I can help people? Like the community has helped me get my life back. That's amazing. There's a few different ways you can become a coach. I mean, there's training programs. I think Mark Sisson has a primal coach training program. I think Sean Baker has a carnivore coach training program. If you look at some of the bigger names in the carnivore space, I'm sure they have coaching certification programs. I know the Symposium for Metabolic Health, the metabolic health practitioners, they have a nutrition coaching program that is based in therapeutic ketogenic diets, of which carnivore can be one. That's a good place to look. And then, the way a lot of people do it is just you live your life and your lived experience, and then you share that. I don't know if you have a YouTube channel or on social media at all, but you can just begin sharing your journey with other people, and that can lead to coaching and things like that. Melanie, please explain how to find the correct number of grams of protein needed for the day. So there's lots of different ways that you can do this. Let me take a sip of my coffee. I've just been talking and talking. Okay, so what I like to do is I take my ideal weight, what I would like to weigh. I would like to weigh 130 pounds. And I aim for a minimum of 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So for me, I'm trying to get a minimum of 130 grams of protein per day. There's lots of different ways you can do this, though. You could do 0.6 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight. 0.8 grams per pound of ideal body weight. If your ideal body weight is 220 pounds, doing 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight, that's 220 grams. That's a lot. And, for some people that are coming from not consuming a lot of protein, that can be difficult. So yeah, figure out what works best for you. 0.6 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of ideal body weight is what I would go for. If you're trying to build a lot of muscle, like you're a bodybuilder, you would go on the higher end. If you're just a normal person, I think the minimum would be 0.6 grams per pound of ideal body weight, and then figure that out from there. That's kind of why I start with the 1 gram. So for me, most days am getting around 130 grams minimum. Some days I'll get 90, some days I'll get 115, and then some days I'll get 220 grams. But on average, I would say I average about, 150 to 160 grams of protein per day for myself. And moving into the next question about my thoughts on gluconeogenesis and higher blood sugars. So what that means, for those of you that don't know, is protein and some fat can be converted into glucose. Your body can manufacture all of the glucose it needs. There's a lot of, false nutritional information out on the interwebs that talks about, you have to eat glucose because your body needs it. Your body can make its own stores of glucose. And in fact, I would trust my body more to create the amount of glucose that it needs and that it can handle than I would dumping a bunch of glucose into my body and forcing my body to, release more insulin to deal with that. Your body, I think, in your bloodstream can only store about a teaspoon worth, or 5 grams, I think it is, of glucose or sugar at a time. So yeah, your body can make glucose. So for some people that have a lot of insulin resistance, what that means is just your body has been having to release insulin in excess amounts for so long that you've kind of built up a tolerance to it, and it doesn't have the same effect. It's not lowering your glucose like it's supposed to anymore. You've become resistant to the insulin. When you're in that situation, sometimes eating what would be considered a normal amount of protein, like 130 grams, if I was very insulin resistant, that might cause me to still have too much glucose in my system because my body is making glucose out of the protein. It's not as like hardcore as a lot of people make it out to be, but it can be an issue. So if you've been carnivore for, I say, at least 90 days, give your body time to get used to the diet first, and you're still having elevated glucose levels, what that indicates to me is that you still have some insulin resistance, and you really want to get those insulin levels down. So fasting, building more muscle, exercise, and then adjusting your protein a little bit. It doesn't have to be drastic adjustments. You kind of want to play around with it. Like if you're eating 150 grams of protein and your blood glucose levels are still typically in the 110s to 130s fasting, I would probably drop down to maybe 130 grams of protein and then make up the rest of the calories in fat, animal fats, and kind of do that for a month and like see what happens. Because you kind of want to figure out like what is actually causing this. And everybody is different. Everybody is different. So what works for you is going to be totally different than what works for this person, so you got to kind of dial it in. But yeah, I think it's a thing for sure. For sure. Dale says Mario for Super Nintendo was the best Mario game. I completely agree. I also really liked Yoshi's Island on Super Nintendo. Crypto Shark. I just did shooter games like HOT Online, but my son took the PS5 with him. I have not gotten a PS5 yet. We just have the PS4. And then I've got on my Nintendo Switch, I do have one of those. I have the classic Nintendo, Super Nintendo, and Nintendo 64 controllers. So I can play all of the not all of them, but a lot of the classic games with the controller on the Switch. That's pretty cool. But we're going to get a 5 eventually. All right, Denise, triglycerides 127, HDL 62, LDL cholesterol 297, fasting glucose 96, took A1C from pre to normal. That's wonderful. Lost 40 pounds and 5 inches off of your waist. Wow, that is incredible. Incredible. Great, great work. Denise, remind me, did you tell us 18 months? Okay, wonderful. So you've been on it for 18 months. For this, let me do a quick back of the hand calculation here. Okay, so I would say for you, you have a little bit more work to do. The triglycerides, I like to see those under 100. I think conventional doctors talk about how they want to see it 150 or less, but I like to see those under 100. HDL is looking really good. Your LDL cholesterol, that's going to do what it's going to do. Your fasting glucose of 96 is a little tiny bit high, but you are doing well with the weight loss and the in the inches. That's amazing. I think a little bit of fasting could be helpful. I don't know if you've been doing like intermittent fasting at all, like 16 to 18 hours between your last meal and your first meal. But that can be really helpful if you start experimenting a little bit with maybe some 24 to 36 hour fasts. That could be something that could take you to the next level. My husband is an experienced faster. And that was actually one of the ways that he lost 130 pounds on keto. And now on carnivore, he had a hard time losing weight. But recently he's down about 25 pounds now after he dialed a few things in. One of those things was getting back to the extended fasts. He just did, was that a 4 or 5 day fast? And his triglycerides had been 200 and he got them down to 94 just from fasting. Now, a 4 to 5 day fast is an experienced fast. I wouldn't start there. Start with a 24-hour fast. Start with, working your way up slowly, and see what effect that has on your fasting glucose and on your triglycerides as well. I think that could be something that would be something you could try. Dale, Star Fox for Super NES was good. I liked that game. That game was legit perfection, is legit perfection. I totally agree. Super Mario Brothers Nintendo 64 Legendary. Yeah, that game, when it first came out, that was the first game that came out with the 64. Man, we played that game a lot. K-Day. Jenny, which foods in your journey did you notice the milestones in the weight department? Were your calories lower or less fat? That's a really good question. I don't do a ton of calorie restriction. I'm typically minimum 1,600 to 1,800 calories per day. Recently, I got to my lowest weight because of stress, and I was eating 2 meals a day and keeping it really tight. But then because of the stress, I decided to do about a month of reverse dieting where I ate between 2,500 to 3,500 calories per day. And my weight didn't go up too much, maybe like 4 pounds. And now in September, I'm incorporating the fasting and going back to my 1 or 2 meals a day, keeping the calories probably between 1,800 and 2,300. And the weight is coming off again. So that's something that I'm experimenting with. I think every person is an individual. I think you need to figure out what your total daily energy expenditure is in the first place. And then from there, because that's based on like activity levels, age, if you have a DEXA scan, you can put in how much fat you have in your body already. And then from there, you can kind of figure out your maintenance goal, maintenance calories. So if you eat a certain amount of calories per day, let's just say it's 2,000, and you stay around the same weight within 1 or 2 pounds, that's your maintenance. And then from there, you can play around with reducing it by maybe 100 or 200 calories at the most, and then lose to a certain point. And then your body's going to adjust to that amount of calories that you're consuming. Your metabolism just adjusts. So at that point, you need to give your body signals that, okay, it's time to start burning more. So you can do some reverse dieting or just eat higher calorie for, about a month and a half, something like that. Maybe go up to 2,500 calories. And yeah, you might gain a pound or 2 or something like that. But then you can cut again. And you can just continue that process. It's all about kind of tricking your body into adjusting its metabolic rate and burning. But it takes some practice, and it's frustrating, and it's different for literally every single person. So yes, that can be that. Let's get to these last couple of questions, and then I gotta go because we're gonna go to a movie. Kate, do you believe that saying eat until fully satisfied do you believe in the saying eat until you're fully satisfied on carnivore? Yeah, I mean, that's my typical advice for people that are first starting out on carnivore. I share my data with you guys on YouTube. So I track a lot, but I'm not like super religious about calorie tracking anymore. But I do to a degree just so I can try to find patterns. So my whole thing is in the very beginning, your first month on carnivore, I'm not super concerned about calories except to make sure you're eating enough food. That's the most important thing. Because a lot of new carnivores just don't eat enough, and that can really tank your metabolism. But you want to give your body time to get used to carnivore. It's a completely different way of eating, especially if you're coming from eating a lot of carbs, even if it's fruits and vegetables and healthy stuff. You got to give your body time to adjust. Then after the first month or two, if you haven't been tracking, but you're not losing weight or you're not feeling very good, I would start tracking and figuring out just how much you're actually eating and all that kind of stuff. But you can do that from the beginning too. Yeah, I think eating until you're full is the way that most long-term carnivores are eating. But in the beginning, you might need to do it a little different because your appetite's going to tank. So you might have to schedule 2 meals per day to make sure you're getting enough food. It's kind of a long-winded answer to that question. That is to K-Day. Joel, just started carnivore with intermittent fasting 5 days ago, and I actually didn't feel sluggish anymore. I feel good. I have diabetes type 2. Kidney is at stage 3. I need a whole lot of help. Well, I'm glad that you're here. Contrary to popular belief, what's harming kidneys is sugar and high carbohydrates. And protein is not detrimental to kidney health. So I love that you're here. 5 days. I'm glad that you're feeling better. That's awesome. I'm very interested to see in what will happen for you in the next few days. Joel, I have high blood pressure, cardiovascular disease, 6 stents. Which carnivore diet should I do? I mean, for you, I would just start with all meat, all seafood, eggs, and butter and go from there. I probably wouldn't include much dairy just because you want to lose some weight, get all of that under control. I think that probably would be a good place to start. And Joel finishes up by saying, thank you, Jenny, for all you do. God bless you more and more each day. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Sherry, thank you, Jenny, for being a voice of reason in the carnivore world. Well, thank you. You know, I don't know. I'm a normal person. I don't think it needs to be super extreme in either direction. And I just want to give you guys realistic information on what's going on. Mrs. Hooligan's house is Nintendo themed. 5 Switches, 4 Xboxes. I love video games. I grew up with video games. I have been playing them since I was 7. I got my first Nintendo when I was 7. So yeah, I'm super into it. I think that's kind of a generational thing too. Red Dragon from 2002. I've never played that game. Sherry, hormones are key. I got my period back after 10 years focusing on higher fat, making sure you keep electrolytes in to minimize keto flu, which can happen at any stage. I completely agree with you there. That's amazing. That is amazing. Higher fat carnivore can do a lot. And Mrs. Hooligan Fish, you are very welcome. You are very, very welcome. All right, folks, I'm going to end it here because we need to leave the house in about 15 minutes to go see Beetlejuice. So I'm going to do another one of these here next week. Sometime I haven't quite scheduled it yet, but keep an eye out for that and make sure you set up notifications so you can come and chat with me again. And I will put all those links that I talked about in the description after I finish this video. So good to chat with you all. Have a fantastical day, and I will see you very soon. Leave the studio.